Yo! Video games.
What up, dudes, and welcome back to the YoVideogames podcast. I'm Matt.
And I'm Andrew.
And once again, thank you to all our generous patrons who've kept us going for 324 episodes.
Too many episodes, some would say. But yeah, if you're interested in becoming a patron at any level, please check out patreon.com/YoVideogamespodcast. Dude of the week is Mark. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark. And thank you for your funky bunch.
I don't know if that's fair. Mark, if you're from Boston, you're like, I am known as Marky Mark. I heard Mark Wahlberg will like straight up throw down with you if you bring up Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch, which I don't think is fair. I don't think
I've ever heard an actual song of Mark Wahlberg that he's ever done. The only thing I know about it is that he had a Sega CD video game called Make My Music Video, Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch.
I mean, you've heard a Funky Bunch song. I mean, they had like a couple of hits.
I mean, I probably did hear and I didn't know what it was.
There's a fucking music video of Mark Wahlberg like doing some like shirtless boxing and then dancing and shit. And he's just like way too sweaty for where he's at.
I mean, like I said, I've seen the images of the Sega CD game.
I gotta look up what the hit song of Marky Mark and the Funky, because I feel like we've definitely Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch.
And now the topic's completely
or
derailed.
Is it like the Sunshine Bunch? No, it's the Funky Bunch.
No, it's the
Good
Funky
Vibrations. Bunch. Yeah, fuck. Of course you've heard Good Vibrations.
I've heard it from the Beach Boys.
I mean, this is a different Good Vibrations.
I guess.
A very different one. This is Marky Mark from Boston. And I don't know, slight racism. Anyway, we should talk about our sponsor for the episode. Actually, if you decide to go look up the Good Vibrations music video, you will see that Marky Mark takes real good care of his manscaping, of his grooming.
Oh, really? Does he have a really low cut shorts or something?
Oh yeah, man. That dude, that dude's waxed. There's no, I mean, he's not doing the far more convenient and comfortable version that Manscaped offers.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, you could go that route, or you could go probably way cheaper and way more convenient by going with something like the Lawnmower 4.0.
Yeah, I mean,
Manscaped,
you get the performance package.
Right, I was gonna say, and then you get the whole performance package, which comes with the ball deodorant and the ball spray and some nice
kit.
A nice kit to carry it all in, and some nice underwear.
I actually took the DOP kit out of my gym bag, and one of the things that I use all the time, and I keep forgetting, is one of their products is the nose hair trimmer. The nose and ear hair trimmer is, if you've ever had a bad one of these, like, they really suck. Like, they really rip out hairs and shit. This was pretty gentle. Not that I've used a ton of them, so like I can't be an expert on it, but like I actually dig that thing. But the two favorite products of this podcast are, of course, the lawnmower. I mean, it's the high-tech, high-powered flashlight for your taint. You really get in there, get into all the crevices. You got no excuses. I guess weird question. Do you trim your ass crack hair with this? No, you're right. That's too personal. Let's not talk about that.
I can't. I'd have to. You got to bust out like all the multi mirrors and stuff for that.
That's what that zoomed in mirror is for, right?
Yeah,
the one that really gets in there.
That's supposed to be for makeup.
Oh apparently. Yeah, I don't believe that. That's purely for ass crack.
Oh, okay. That's definitely for like
looking at
deep diving. Yeah, looking into a chocolate starfish.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, sure, it shows your pores too, but like, come on. We know what it's for. But
okay, I to be terribly honest, I've always had that thought about like, hey, like, because I was told those super magnifying mirrors are like, it's for makeup and pores and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, but what if you want to use it to like check for like testicular cancer or something? Just like,
oh man,
really get in there and like inspect your balls.
What a terrifying turn!
But you know what? Your balls will look great as long as you've got them scaped with the Lawnmower 4.0. So you could trim them and then admire in close-up glory your handiwork.
Yeah, I mean, you might have cancer, but they'll look fucking great. And they'll smell great. So when you go to the
They will
doctor,
smell great.
inevitably be like, look at my huge balls. At least you won't feel uncomfortable about, whipping them out.
That's right. Do you want an unkempt forest when you have to go get your medical exam, or do you want to be proud to display your Mr. Johnson and the Juice Crew?
Yeah, the
To
doctor's going
your
to be like,
doctor?
wow, this is great. You're going to be like, oh, so I'm safe? No, riddled with cancer, but your balls smell fantastic.
Yeah, but at least they look great. Going out looking great.
If you're interested in impressing your doctor at your next prostate exam or testicular cancer exam, go ahead and use our code YoVG, all caps, at manscaped.com. You will get 20% off and free shipping so that you too can get the performance package. What a dark turn.
Just the way you like it.
Yeah, I mean, I loved it. But if you're going to get testicular cancer, at least have some fresh smelling balls.
Yeah.
Well, we keep it on the brighter side here.
Exactly.
Speaking of the brighter side, the FGC losing their fucking minds in the last couple days.
Yeah.
Street Fighter 6.
We got Street Fighter 6 announced kind of at the end of Capcom Pro Tour. Kind of just like they had a countdown clock for it, right? Like a week in advance, and everyone got in a tizzy about it. But then it was kind of quickly like it feels like it became pointless for two reasons. One, when everyone found out that the countdown clock was ending at the end of the Capcom Pro Tour for Street Fighter 5, it was like, okay, well,
Street Fighter 6, yeah,
obviously. And then the countdown clock ended, but you know how these tournaments go; they always go way longer than they mean to. So yeah, like the countdown clock ended, and it was just frozen because they were waiting for the tournament to finally end and then to go through all their other sponsorships and blah blah blah. And there was a whole other game they had to announce before Street Fighter 6 that was not related to the countdown clock. So the countdown clock became this big farce, sort of.
We should right away talk about the fact that like nothing on it is nothing's built probably for Street Fighter 6. Like they're just getting started.
I don't think that's true.
How do you? I mean, look at what all they showed was two characters in close up.
Right. So that is kind of something that I think is worth talking about.
And the logo.
The logo. It was it was like what 36 seconds, 39 seconds or something, and it's like here's what Luke looks like in 6. Here's what Ryu looks like in 6. Thank God they're going with Hot Ryu as seemingly as default. Here's a logo we bought off an Amazon or an Adobe store asset page.
That was Fiverr for sure, right? Like that. What were they? And not only is it like a totally different corporate-esque style, I think they really did actually find it. They found it on a stock.
Wow. Oh no, yeah, that's been making the rounds on social media. Like, wow, you actually just took it from here and threw a little 6. Put a little splash image and then put a 6 in the splash image.
That's really funny.
So I hope the logo's I'm gonna assume now that it's kind of been outed, like where they bought the logo from.
They might hire an actual artist to make something good.
Well, yeah. I'm saying now that logo's temporary. The logo may not have been temporary, but it's temporary now. It's definitely temporary now if it wasn't before. That's all there really is to say about the logo. Like, yeah, it sucked. It looked like a crypto coin, or like a weird esports team game logo.
Don't give them any ideas.
The Albuquerque Armadillos or something.
Hell yeah.
Which actually sounds way cooler than that logo.
The hardest of esports teams.
Right. It just the logo is bad. Whatever. Maybe people are just talking about because there's really not much else to say. It's RE Engine. Obviously, they didn't say RE Engine in the teaser, but it's RE Engine.
Oh yeah,
obviously.
but it's gonna look great.
Big emphasis on sweat and muscles and all that. This is all just like really well, trodden ground now at this point. And because they didn't show anything, not even like mock gameplay, not even anything, literally just the characters posing and like, winding up to do a punch. That's it. That for me, I'm like, okay, so the real interesting part of this is more about everything surrounding the announcement rather than the announcement itself. Capcom making another Street Fighter is not fucking earth-shattering news in any way, shape, or form. But it has been a while. There's two arguments on this, which is Street Fighter 5 came out like 6 years ago.
Yeah, forever ago.
Right, and then there's the argument that I'm like, yeah, but it just got its last DLC character in December. It's only been 2 months since its last update, and I think that that's the sort of schism, the divide right there, where it's like you either because like Matt McMust was very vocal about the fact that he was kind of bummed that it was Street Fighter 6. They just got a character added to Street Fighter 5. He really wished it was going to be a different fighting game or something like either new or a different or another older franchise
or another Resident Evil, please, guys.
No. He was talking about fighting games.
Exactly, no, I know. I'm saying I was just being a dick because the RE community kind of gotten a tizzy about it too.
Did they? I heard about that from some people
on
like,
Twitter. I saw some shit.
We're getting like a game a year. It's like holy shit.
I honestly, I no longer believe internet outrage at all because Twitter is just always outraged about something.
Yeah, sure.
I just don't take it seriously anymore. But Twitter did seem like RE Twitter was all.
It's like you had RE7 followed by RE2, followed by RE3, followed by RE8.
RE's doing great. Like we're spoiled. We're lousy with them.
Like you're gonna get your RE game. Don't fucking worry.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that I'm not of the opinion like, oh, I wish it was something else not fighting game related. I know, but like there is definitely a sort of divide between like feels like we're just getting over Street Fighter. Like Street Fighter 5 is still like healthy and strong. Why are we already moving to 6? And some people are like, well, because 5 has actually been out for 6 years. And they've just been nursing it along to try to recoup the costs on it or whatever. So
what year did it come out? It hasn't been out longer than
2016?
2016. Okay.
Like the thing was that Maxim had made a very good point. It's like it felt like the game was a year old when it came out because there were so many events. Right? Yeah, well, not arcades, but there were so many events and like demo stations. They had one. I remember they had one like at a Six Flags.
Yeah,
all
didn't we?
Year, so
yeah, that's right. Okay, that's why I think it's earlier because we went to that.
So it felt like we'd been playing it since 2015, and then it came out in early 2016. But it felt like we'd been playing it. We had been playing it for a year, really. We'd seen there was gameplay for Street Fighter 5 in 2014. In December 2014, they showed a full match of Street Fighter 5 gameplay. So it's like the game's been around for fucking ever. So yeah, like it actually has been a large amount of time between Street Fighter 5 to Street Fighter 6. So, and the only thing that came out in between that was Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. God rest its soul.
No one remembers that game, which is unfortunate.
It's funny because that game came out in 2017, and 2017 is like one of the best years ever for video games. But like, that's not a bright spot for most video gamers or fighting game fans.
I mean, other than it was supposed to be good though, right? It was good. It just looked like
the
shit.
Gameplay is very good. Gameplay is super solid, but it fails at the three most important things I feel any fighting game should have, which is presentation,
cool.
presentation, roster, content. And when I mean content, I'm actually kind of more referring to amount of modes and a lot of and the quality of the single player modes. Not just like, well, it has survival and it has training and it has that's.
What more could you want?
Yeah, like actual engaging single player content and
NetherRealms is over here just dominating that year after
year. Exactly. Because a lot of people are like, well, the online's got to be good. No, it really doesn't. like it helps.
Nice,
like that.
Though.
That's for longevity. Okay, but making a fighting game successful out the gate, you need presentation, roster, content. The online, the netcode, even the gameplay, that is all somewhat secondary to just make it look really appealing, make it have characters people really want to play, and then have a lot of modes for them to dick around in that are fun and engaging. A lot, and I emphasize single player on that as well. So, yeah, it's. Those are the things why Marvel Infinite kind of failed. The presentation was awful. People hated it. Like the characters look pretty bad. They improved some of them by launch, but only a couple. Presentation was bad. Roster was really infuriating because it cut out so many characters. No X-Men whatsoever. But bunch of dropouts. Bunch of people dropped from 3, and a lot of people they brought over from 3 were like people didn't care or want. Like nobody was asking for Nemesis and Spencer to like these were not like fan favorites that they brought back. And then the content, it had a really janky weird campaign mode, but that was kind of it. But it was a far cry from NetherRealm's offerings, from Injustice 2, at the time. So
it's sort of not fair to compare them to NetherRealms just because NetherRealm's been dominant in that area for so long.
It also feels like NetherRealm gets way more budget. Well, I mean, I know for a fact that they get way more budget, but it was kind of one of those things in the case where it's like Warner Brothers is putting a ton of money into Injustice to make it a big deal. And Marvel was just kind of like, Marvel was like looking at Infinite like it was like some like, oh, it's an inconvenience, beggar on the street. Oh, whatever, here's $5, just go away.
Well, it was Marvel's fault that X-Men wasn't in it, right?
Sure. Right? I mean, Capcom didn't make that decision.
Well, I mean, it was Marvel. It was like, no, we're going to have only characters that we can make movies out of.
Right. But like they were not funding a lot or floating much money at all to that game, if any. Like they were kind of just treating it as like, oh yeah, this thing, whatever.
You think Street Fighter 6 is going to launch with the same small ass roster that 5 did? Yes.
Because it's a new engine. Yeah.
It's gonna be 5 characters.
No, it's not gonna be 5 characters.
It's gonna be 5 characters, 2 maps, and like 3 different songs, and they're randomized.
Yeah, well, it's a new engine. It's a big upgrade from 5, character model wise, and that's cool, but also kind of frightening because I'm like, man, is this gonna be another small ass roster?
Yeah, but also are the characters gonna look as good as that 40-second all the time? I don't know if in gameplay they're gonna look that good.
Well, that's what I was kind of starting to imply that. I'm like, and Max and Kenny were like, no, these are in-game character models. I'm like, yes, but they might be sort of accentuating, touching on like one area is like Ryu's dripping with sweat from the beginning. I'm like, that's probably what Ryu will look like at the end of a match, not at the start of a match. And like the lighting in particular was done very, very particularly to like sort of like be cinematic and showy off, and you're doing all these super zoom in close-ups of stuff where it's like, even if it does look as good like in the final game, you're not going to see Ryu or Luke that close up because it's going to be a fighting game. It's going to be like, maybe for like some supers are like zoom in or whatever, but for the most part, like, no, this is not a game where you're going to be hyper focused on like extreme close-ups.
In any case, it's going to look good as hell.
It's going to look good.
Yeah.
And I think that like that's almost the scary thing about it is like, because it's looking so good, because it's a complete shift in engine and everything, does that mean it's going to be a small roster? Because I'm like, okay, so it's like part 1 is presentation, which, some people are a little mixed because like Street Fighter does have a long history of being like anime and cartoony a bit. Sure. And them going into hyper realism is kind of a focus shift away, definitely from like where they were during the late 90s, and even Street Fighter 4 and 5 were still cartoony. So pivoting
you
hard
mean in art style or in
like just general art style. Like this is a hard pivot into realism.
Yeah,
which Street Fighter's not really done before. So this is going to have it's going to lose some people just because like people like, there's going to be something like, who don't want a hyper realistic.
Yeah, but they're going to gain all of those people back as soon as you see Cammy and Chun-Li.
That's true. For me, I'm like, okay, me and Max both agreed. We kind of wished it would have gone hard into the animation style, like, rather than hyper realistic. But I think me and Max are also on the same page where I'm glad they're choosing a side, where it's not like, well,
instead of like a middle ground.
Yeah. Cause 5 does still like it definitely leans cartoony, but it's still a bit middle groundish. Like it leans cartoonish, but it's not Guilty Gear, right? Like Guilty Gear Strive and like Dragon Ball, like we are making this look like a fucking animated show.
Yeah. And
leans hard into the cartoon aspect, or animation aspect, I should say. And then, NetherRealm leans hard into hyperrealism, and this is leaning way hard into hyperrealism. So I'm glad they're choosing a side. I'd rather commit to one, don't be a sort of like, in between. So I'm happy that okay, we're using our engine. We're gonna go hyperrealism. Cool. Just lean into it. Don't shy away from it. Good
But
luck.
they're keeping that same like body proportion where hands and feet are big, aren't they?
It does look like that.
Which is supposed to be
And-
better for a fighting game, right? For tracking.
yeah.
Yeah. So
I'm-
I mean, I imagine they're going to keep that. So it's not going to be like hyper realistic.
Well, it's not going to look like a UFC game.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's going to be like Devil May Cry 5. I think is what it's going to look like.
Okay.
It's closer to that, where it's like these are still definitely like not real people, but like they almost look like they could be, but not quite. Like some animated features are sort of like kept intact. So yeah.
What is a small roster then? Realistically, if you think it's going to be 10,
12 to 20, I think 12 to 20 is small in this day and age. Like King of Fighters 15 just came out and it had 39 characters at launch, and it's about to add 3 more.
Oh, damn.
In less than a month.
I was going to say like everything's a small roster compared to Smash.
No. It is. There is a lot of games. Like, well, Strive and Strive just came out, and that kind of has a small roster as well. Comparatively speaking, yeah, they're sort of like, it's kind of like there's like a big bridge right now between like, you got games with big rosters or they launch with like a sizable enough roster. Like MK11 has a sizable enough, and they added a ton since then. And then you got games like Strive, and I'm trying to think of what else, like Samurai Showdown when it first came out. They kind of come out the gate, Power Rangers, like really small rosters. Some of that's not a death knell, but again, yeah, like
if
like
the
you
characters
said,
are cool enough, not
right?
a death knell. Yeah,
I think you kind of though made a good point. That was like, in the age of Smash Brothers having like 90 characters, we're really more like 100. Where the announcer has like 100 different character names he'll say. Yeah, it's hard to. I mean, granted, it's a very apples to oranges thing, but like for Joe Schmo consumer, like you can look at MK11's roster count right now, and it's way up there. It's in like the 40s, I think. And then if you come out with like sub 20 on launch for Street Fighter 6, that's going to stand out a little bit, I think. But maybe that can be negated a lot by just, okay, but look at this game. Look how crazy it looks.
And it's immediately going to be in, tournaments and
oh yeah.
Like it will immediately be in those.
Jump right in.
Because there's a process to those being in. Like other fighting games tend to have to like get accepted first. Street Fighter will immediately be in.
There's absolutely some bias there.
Oh sure, yeah.
for sure.
Humans are involved.
Yeah, humans are involved. So the interesting thing is that it was announced now, but there's no release date, no platform. Max was thinking, yeah, this might actually show up. Max was like, there's a small chance it could show up at the end of the year. I'm very much like, they didn't say any platforms, any release date, anything. They just said, well, here's 30 seconds of something, and we'll talk to you in summer. So to me, I'm like, this game's
2 years
not
away.
really but Capcom's lately has been like, announce a game, release it within 6 months, 9 months. So Capcom's been on like for the most part, not 100%, but like for the most part, Capcom's been very much more of a announce it, release it within 9 months. So, hey, they announced the game. Could it come out within 9 months?
Okay.
I have no idea.
Is that why you're saying that there's probably work? It's already moving?
Maybe. Yeah. Well, it's been so long since 5.
What else have they been doing? Is that what you're getting at?
Well, because there is a whole division for fighting games in Capcom. It's not the RE. It's not like the RE team stops, goes to do this, and then does another RE game. No, it's not like that. Like there's a whole branch of Capcom that's made just for fighting games, and they've been updating Street Fighter 5. Yes, but I'm like, they had to have been working on this in the background for some time by now. So
especially if they're going to be on a totally new engine.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
That's,
so it's to me, I'm like, it's unclear when this game could come out, just because it was such a tiny teaser with no info, no platforms, no release, anything, nothing. Just it was. And here's the real thing: it was the announcement of an announcement. It's kind of like the worst. The thing people really criticize a lot for is the announcement of an announcement. Like we're making Street Fighter 6. We'll talk to you about it in the summer.
At Keeley's show.
Probably.
Summer Game Fest.
It feels weird to me. I actually don't know. And it's gonna be this whatever. Here come the pretzels. I don't know if it was a good idea to announce this when they did with so little info. I think it maybe might have been better for them to just announce it in the summer when they have something to show and they're ready to talk more about it. Like, having this be at the end of the Capcom Pro Tour was a very planned, targeted thing because you have all the fighting game eyes. But remember, they announced the Capcom Fighting Collection right before they announced Street Fighter 6. And I feel like you could have just ended the Capcom Pro Tour with the Capcom Fighting Collection announcement, which is a whole bunch of old, more obscure games that are getting online play officially for everything.
I mean, this all screams to me
Darkstalkers.
that they were not planning on announcing this yet.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because like Fighting Game Collection comes out in June. You know, they announced it, and it's like here's a bunch of really old, classic games that are getting online play officially for the first time, including Darkstalkers, the entire Darkstalkers series. And it comes out in June. It's Capcom's shooting themselves a bit in the foot with it because it does not have crossplay. It has online, but it doesn't have crossplay, which I think is really shitty because it's on PC, Xbox, Nintendo Switch, PS, PlayStations. It really should have had crossplay. Like, my God, it really, 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 really should have had crossplay. Like, it's so important for fighting games to have crossplay in this day and age.
I would argue any multiplayer game really should have crossplay in this day.
Yeah, if you can, man. God, I just... I know Sony was kind of like the big dickhole on the block preventing it for the longest time, but they've since kind of thought out on it now, and they've played the innocent cards and goes up to the developer. I'm like, but like, which developers have come out and said like, you told us straight up no. So
you are the bad guy.
But either way, like if there was a possibility, they should have done it. And if they were going to say, well, that would have been, we would have had to, do more testing, take more time, cost more money. So do it. Like that's, to me, putting the time and money into crossplay would have been worth whatever monetary extra cost it would have taken to get it. But like, it absolutely would have been worth it because crossplay just doubles, triples, quadruples your pool of people to play against. So very, very sad that it doesn't. Very cool that it does have online play for all the games. Very sad that it's not crossplay. I feel that's a huge mistake. I get it. Like, oh, they're a business, not a charity. I'm like, this would have been a good business move.
That sort of brings up an interesting. I mean, now more than ever, do you think like there's like a clickiness to consoles? Like console drama.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't see because we're a good segue. Because of the launch of Horizon 2, I was reminded that console warring still exists.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, and
for some fucking reason, which to me is just like the dumbest, saddest thing possible.
There's this weird thing I've noticed that's sort of tied into console warring. Where it's just like everything that's Japanese is superior to anything that's Western. Like, have you noticed that lately?
Like that was true 20 years ago, but I mean,
but like with Horizon especially,
that's been made.
That's like
that's probably a dog whistle for horny fanboys who want skimpy porcelain dolls in all their video games. I say this as a Xenoblade fan. So
yeah, you whore.
Yeah, what?
You just want to dress your heroines all slutty.
We know exactly what this is about. And by the way, Aloy's pretty gorgeous.
She's pretty hot. And then there's a couple outfits where they show midriff. And let me tell you, my Catholic school boy, midriff was a big no-no in Catholic school. So nothing gets me horny or faster.
Yeah, exactly. I wore this Karja outfit in the first game, and in the second game, very early on in the game, one of the earliest towns you go to, I went to the tailor, and he has it on a mannequin. The outfit from this one particular outfit from the first game, this purplish
Yeah.
blue 2-piece outfit. And I'm like, and he's not selling it. And when you talk to him and go to his menu, I was super fucking pissed. I'm like, it's right. Why did you model it? Why did you put it in the game and put it right next to him? But anyways, I found it.
Belly button. Fuck.
Anyways, I found the outfit
Nice.
when I was just randomly wandering through a bandit camp and found it in a treasure chest. And I'm like, well, I'm putting this outfit on and I'm never taking it off. But it doesn't. But like, I'm thinking in my head, but it doesn't give you any of the stats you care about. Don't care. I'm like, but it's probably not. I'm like, it's probably not. It's probably going to be detrimental later on when it's totally like out of level. I'm like, then I'm done. Then I'm putting it on easy.
I haven't found any equipment that I haven't bought or made myself.
Okay. No, you find them randomly. Like they're usually in the bandit camps. You'll find weapons and armor in there.
Fucking once, and I've done a bunch of bandit camps already. God, that's frustrating. I thought you just can't find stuff in the wild anymore. Now I'm a little frustrated. Now I'm a little mad. You know? I'm only like 30% into the game, so I guess I'm not that mad, but still. I'm a little upset.
I could even tell you where it was if you want to go find this particular outfit, but
no, it's okay. I've got Aloy in like a grass, the grass
you got
infiltrator.
the grass one?
Yeah. And it gives me the stat boost that I like, but also it's just very fun to me to be running around in like a grass, like you're wearing leaves and shit.
Yeah.
In the cold West.
But yeah, I mean, if we want to go back to what you were saying though, like there's like a weird Japanese bias, and I'm like, yeah, that kind of was true. That was true. I mean, this is mean to say. If you weren't rare, you mostly, like for the most part, most American game developers were not on. Well, okay, let me put it this way: the best of Japan, the best of the Japanese game developers in the '90s were better than the best of the Western game developers in the 90s, except for Rare. It was kind of like Rare was like the lone exception of being like the standout. Like Rare could easily go toe to toe with the best of the best.
There was also 10 times less the size of developers than there are
and
now.
Audience.
Yeah, like
developers and audience.
Just gaming in general was 10 times smaller back then than it is now. I guess I don't really care about like this. I don't care if it's true. It's fine if it's true. It's just weird that like everything is becoming this weird dick measuring contest of like, I don't know why people think this is so impressive. Monster Hunters had fights like this for years. Okay. I don't.
Is impressive, period. They can both be impressive. Like,
I guess like I just don't understand where the dick measuring comes in.
Yeah, and I think that all comes in down to the console warring, where it's just like, oh well,
it's also almost never Japanese people, by the way. It's always some fucking schlubby white dude who's just like getting really fucking pissed on behalf of Monster Hunter. Like nobody who loves Monster Hunter gives a shit about Aloy fighting a giant snake, you know? Like it's just play Monster Hunter. It's fine. I don't.
Yeah, I think there was a Horizon collaboration with Monster Hunter, so shut up. They're friends.
They're friends.
You can make your Palico look like one of the little, generic enemy light bulb walker things. I forget what they're called.
That's
in the first game. It was cool. It looked really good. I actually used it. So
yeah, no, in any case, I understand that like dick measuring contests and like fandom is kind of just a thing forever now. Like you have to be fans of something. But I feel like there's a big portion of the population, and maybe it's just like my personal identity thing, but like a lot of us just don't give a shit about fandoms. Like we like these things, but like, self-identification, like you get it a lot with like Snyderverse guys.
Yeah,
where they're like,
right.
I'm a Snyderverse. Where like your entire identity
every
is...
tweet with release the Snyder Cut hashtag or restore the Snyder Universe hashtag now, I guess, or whatever. And
and I don't understand.
Bro, I don't even think that guy's interested. I don't even know if Snyder's that interested in him. Maybe he's a little interested. I don't know. Who cares? Whatever.
He's pushing to get Army of the Dead an Oscar as kind of a fuck you because he can't put his cut of the Justice League in.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So he's pushing and getting all the Snyder boys. Like worked up.
I thought Army of the Dead wasn't really even that good. I mean, it's a Zack Snyder film. How good could it be?
Ouch. It was fun. It was a fun movie. I wouldn't say that it's like fucking amazing.
It's funny because that's a little. I feel like that might be a little unfair to Zack Snyder because I'm like 300 was good for what it was.
He has a lot of good movies.
He has a great adaptation of 300. I think Watchmen came out about as well as it possibly could have.
Watchmen was good. His Dawn of the Dead was good.
No, I disagree with that. I used to think that, and then I rewatched it. I saw it when I was over at my parents, and it was on TV, and I was rewatching. I'm like, wow, this movie actually kind of sucks.
I mean, well, sucks how?
Mostly just because of how awful all the characters are, and some of the other weird things in the movie. Mostly from a writing standpoint, which I don't know if he's the writer on that, so I don't even know if that's really his
James
fault,
Gunn wrote that.
That's so weird. Yeah, the characters are super awful in that movie, and like they all kind of deserve to die. They all terrible. Like they're not appealing in any way, shape, or form. There's weird things like the zombies don't eat the dog with a sandwich strapped to it. Like this is stupid. Like why?
Yeah, I don't. One thing that I can say that's going to be a little bit controversial is I don't understand why Peacemaker is so popular. It's fun. I think it's fun.
You know what? Okay, I'll give you an answer for that. Because Peacemaker has a sort of a realism in its casting that I think is way more something people can latch on, because nobody's built like John Cena. But you know what a lot of people are built like? Most of the rest of the people he has to work with in that show. Like you have a couple of your super gorgeous, super fit people, and then you have people who are just normal ass everyday humans.
No, and that's fine. I guess what I'm really talking about is like I like James Gunn as a writer, but like of all of his writing, it seems like the weakest that he's done. If that makes sense. Like I'm not trying to shit on it. Like
he actually really likes it. In fact, he found it liberating to write for a series rather than a movie.
Because I don't think anybody edited his. I don't think anybody gave him feedback on his writing. Like the thing is I don't want to paint it like I thought it was bad. I didn't think it was bad. I don't understand why it is so beloved, and that's kind of a puzzle for me.
But did you finish it?
Yeah, no, I had a good time.
There is one thing I'll say, like it's sort of like the probably one of the most talked about moments at the end of the last episode. He basically, the fact that DC was okay with allowing a certain exchange of dialogue by certain characters.
It's all over the internet. You can just say it's the fish fucking joke. It's everywhere.
Which is, the joke on its own is not, it to me was like whatever, but the fact that he was able to get,
well, it has the Snyder Bros all pissed.
The fact that he could get Jason Momoa and Ezra Miller to commit to this scene and do it and say it out loud, it's kind of like, okay, props to you. We're not going to be this. It was kind of a nice unsanitary, like, I don't know, like it's just something Marvel would never do.
I think one of the things that I was sort of shocked by, it's the laziest use of the F word in any of the things he's ever done.
There's some really long moments where the characters they keep talking awkwardly and have awkward arguments, and no one cuts,
F word constantly,
and nobody cuts, and nobody cuts, and nobody cuts. It just keeps going. It's like, okay, I'm like, holy shit, someone stop, rein it in. It's not funny anymore. It wasn't really funny to begin with.
Well, I mean, like the thing is I'm the last person who's going to be against the use of liberal cussing and stuff, obviously. But the overuse of the F word, it gets lazy and kind of loses its punch. The thing that I was always taught, and granted I was taught by Ron Mita, you can't really, like, you're not going to hold him up to win an Oscar or anything. He was he was a good teacher, but like his biggest claim to fame is like fucking SWAT and robots. He didn't, necessarily write Oscar bait. Really good dude though. But one of the things that he said that always kind of stuck with me is like, cussing is salt and pepper. If you do it the right amount, it's fucking great. If you do it too much, and there's a very fine line between it, it ruins it makes it shit.
Other than and again, I'll go back to it because James Gunn even retweeted this himself, actually, and I retweeted to James Gunn, whatever. I kept saying how insanely well done Alan Tudyk's use of the F word in the Harley Quinn show was.
Yes.
And that first episode was a little overbearing. A lot of it's like, why is there so much swearing and blood? And they're like, and then the showrunners came out and said, we did that on purpose, only for the first episode, to basically make sure any parent who dumbly turns this on for their kid will get immediately turned away. But like that was intentionally done just for the pilot to just scare off anyone who's not unaware of the R rating. And for the rest of that show, I feel like the swearing, there's a lot of swearing in it, but it's done so well. And like the timing is so good, and
well, there's a lot of reasons why a well-timed fuck is so funny.
Yeah, like nothing's
on a
very
hard
like
consonant. It's, you know,
yes, like the way Alan Tudyk, like, because like the Joker doesn't swear all the time, but my God, when like it's almost, it seems so like, you know, the punctuality of it is so good when he does get like super pissed in the show.
Yeah,
and it's weird how much of a good Joker he plays.
I mean, if you see all the characters he plays, it makes so much sense that he plays a great Joker. He'd be a great live action Joker too, probably.
He probably would, and his Clayface is good too. And he doesn't even swear. He actually makes really funny commentary out of just normal dialogue. You know, like the whole thing where, you know, he comments on an ice sculpture in the shape of a vagina, and he's like, it's so beautiful, it reminds me of my mother. You know, and when he's going undercover as a sorority girl, and he's just like, and Hunter, like, you know, she doesn't want to go out with Hunter, but who could blame her? He has areolas the size of, and he gets slapped, and he's like, pancakes. And none of those are swear words, but it's done well. And even when there is swearing, it is pretty good. I forget the comedian or whoever plays Dr. Psycho. He probably swears the most, but it's still pretty good.
He does, yeah. Well, because he calls someone a cunt in the show, right? And it, like,
yeah. He calls Wonder Woman a cunt. It ruins his entire like villain career.
It ruins his career. But yeah, no.
Here's my favorite line, which was, to me, I swear to God, someone stole one of your scripts that you wrote when he's doing like the mind read on the bartender, who they find out was Joker, who had his brain washed, and like, you know, yeah, he's all, and he's like, yeah, he's clean, and she's like, Ivy's like, wow, the acid really must have wiped his brain. He's like, and that's why I only stick to weed. And then like no one says anything. He goes, fuck you, that was a good one. Daddy needs a nap.
Daddy needs a nap. Yeah, that's right. No, that show's really well written. And like, again, Peacemaker, there's a lot about it that I really liked. But like Peacemaker in the movie, in the Suicide Squad movie, is much more enjoyable.
It did seem like a bit of a different character, didn't it?
He's dumb. He's not dumb in the movie. In the movie, he is overzealous, and it lets him have a couple dumb moments. Yeah. But he is not actually stupid. And in the show, he comes off stupid. Yeah,
I noticed that, and it was kind of like, I kind of like seconds. I'm like, wait, I don't remember. No, but in the movie, he came off as like super competent.
Yeah,
and in the show, he's really bad at like most of the things he does.
Yeah, he comes off bad at what he's doing. And the show, really, like, the character that shines the most is Vigilante.
Yeah.
Like, that character, he not only seems competent, he seems like a character, he's Deadpool, right? He just comes off as Deadpool.
Like, yeah, he comes off as like a year one Deadpool.
Yeah, like a dumb Deadpool. Kind of. But anyway, not that I wanted to shit on Peacemaker. I just, like, I don't understand quite why it's so popular. You know, which is my fault, not the show's fault.
But at least it was enjoyable, though. Which,
yeah, I had a great time watching it. I just, you know, like, it wasn't like genius level.
There was something I thought was interesting in a Twitter exchange where James Gunn said someone recommended the actor to play Vigilante to him when they were casting, and he said, "Is he an asshole?" And he's like, I was unsure about it because I hadn't met the man before, and I wanted to make sure he wasn't an asshole. He's like, he could be perfect for the role, but if he's an asshole to work with on set, I don't want to work with people like that.
Yeah.
Apparently, he has this whole thing where it's just like, I'm not going to work with assholes. So I guess no Bruce Willis in his movies.
Ooh.
But,
ooh. Yeah.
Or Mike Myers, or Chevy Chase.
Is Mike Myers an asshole?
I've heard that. I don't know if it's true. Chevy Chase, definitely.
I mean, Chevy Chase, yeah, he's a comedic genius.
Definitely him, and definitely Bruce Willis. I've definitely heard that about Mike Myers as well, but like not as much, I guess.
Hmm.
Would also kind of explain why his career just sort of stopped at the Love Guru.
Yeah, but he already had made millions upon millions. He's fine.
Oh, sure, totally. I don't think he's in any sort of like like he's not like.
He did that Dr. Evil commercial for the Super Bowl.
He's not desperate for money or anything. It's just kind of like
He's fine.
he just stopped doing movies after Love Guru, and I had heard like because everyone got sick of dealing with him on set, and when that movie bombed, that was basically all most studios needed to just be like, you're no longer box office guarantee. No one wants to work with you.
Well, isn't that why like Jim Carrey had a harder time finding work for a while?
It's possible. I think that I don't know. I know Jim Carrey definitely had his weird period where he was getting into weird like I want to say like he was really into that. He was really believing that autism is caused by vaccines back before.
Oh, that's
before
right,
the apocalypse.
because he's married to what's her name, right? The anti-vax lady.
I don't
know. But yeah, no, I thought there's.
I pride myself on not knowing Hollywood relationships very well. But yeah, I do know that he was very much a. I'm not talking about the COVID vaccine. I mean, like normal, regular ass vaccines. He was a part of like autism vaccines cause autism bullshit, which has absolutely no scientific basis in reality. So I know that would already be something like, I don't know, do we want to take this lunatic on? But I mean, he was good in the Sonic movie. Sonic 2 is coming out soon.
I mean, he's pretty good in basically everything he's in.
Like, yeah, like there's.
He's not bad in anything.
Shit, I mean, I remember watching Eternal Sunshine on the Spotless Mind. And granted, there is still some funny-ish moments in the movie, but I'm like, man can definitely do drama.
Yeah, oh no, he's a good actor. But back to Horizon Forbidden West. Have you noticed that it seems a little bit jankier than the first game?
No, but I did notice it's janky.
I guess yeah, it's not fair.
Well, maybe it's I mean, I played the game a year ago, but like, okay, like I enjoy the game. I like the game. I really like a lot of things about the game. Most of the game I enjoy my time with, but the combat is still janky.
It just feels like it's not polished.
I will say it's more buggy. That could be because I'm playing this game brand new out the gate.
Oh, yeah, that's fair, yeah.
It does feel more buggy than the first game, but I can really see the skeletal roots of the Euro jank there. But, this is they're based in Amsterdam. There's probably a lot of people who came over from Piranha Games who did like Greedfall and a bunch of other stuff, and there's probably maybe even people who came over from CD Projekt Red. I mean, Europe's not that big, all things considered. People probably move around a bit. I don't know. That's pure speculation on my part, but it feels like it's the most polished, like European action RPG, like 3D style. Like when I'm talking about specifically, I'm talking about like stuff like Greedfall and Witcher. I mean, Witcher's pretty polished, but like
Witcher is very polished.
Even Witcher fans will agree that the weakest aspect of Witcher is the combat. And you can really see the roots of typical European action RPG stylings in Horizon. And
we should talk about that for a second. Like when you say Eurojank, what are the three most typical things of Eurojank RPG?
Huge amount of frame delay, or just in general, huge wind up on any given attack or swing.
Yeah.
Really loose movement or feel. Your character seems to sort of float around the environment when fighting.
Yeah. Also, how are you going to have climbing when the fucking whatever?
And 3, the big one is how the tracking works, where either you or the enemy or both will do a lot of crazy auto tracking. Like if you do a big swing in Horizon, Aloy will sometimes like pivot like 45 degrees and fly off in the direction of the enemy she's going after. Or sometimes and a lot of times she'll just fly off in another direction and hit nothing. And the enemies can do that too. They'll do like this big, long, elaborate, highly produced, tons of fucking man hours went into doing this animation of this Velociraptor going, just jumping and clawing you. but it'll go fucking flying across, it'll go flying like, 30 feet. And sometimes it'll do it at a curved angle and pivot in the air. Like it's a fighting game term for 3D fighters called tracking, where like, say in Soul Calibur, I do a vertical slice, but you're sidestepping. But the computer gave you the hit anyways, even though you sidestep to the right on a downward slice, the character just automatically pivoted just enough to hit you and count it as a hit. So you get a lot of tracking. You get a lot of like combat tracking in this, and to me, those are big indicators of Eurojank, where it's just kind of like, it's not like the animation has like, okay, like really low budget Eurojank will have like bad animation too, but that's just bad animation. But like for me, Eurojank, a lot of it is just kind of like, it takes you press an attack button and the character takes fucking forever to execute it. Like there's a huge weird amount of frame delay just in the character doing the move. The move has all this weird wind up, and a character could roll out of the way like 5 years, before the attack commenced, and somehow they still get hit.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the things that I've noticed is like if you're fighting and you have like AI teammates or whatever, all of them
suck.
And all of the enemies still come straight for you.
Yeah.
They completely ignore the other AI fighting.
The AI does like no damage to them.
Yeah. And it's just
getting up to the base, as we'll call it, going up to the base, like the big fight where you have a whole bunch of people running with you up the hill. Then they don't do fucking anything. I died so much on just this one specific spot because the AI was not doing anything, and all the enemies were going after me, always, constantly.
I had one of those raptor things, or the razor tails, or whatever they call them, did that crazy backflip attack, and because there was AI standing between us, it did this weird float over them instead of landing among them, and basically it jumped like 60 fucking feet. I was staying back trying to shoot it with a bow and arrow, and it like did this crazy float jump and like nailed me and killed me in one hit. I had full health and everything. It just fucking obliterated me doing a move that I had never seen it do before. And it's just this crazy jank moment. And I think I'm enjoying the game, but like, god damn, there's
I'm enjoying it too. But yes, there's many moments in combat where I'm just kind of like, oh god, you can really like. There's three things. There's three specific things that kind of hurt or make the case for why I would say Horizon 2 is weakest on combat. God of War, okay, fair, not necessarily open world. Spider-Man, and Ghost of Tsushima. They all have much better combat than this game. Ghost being the big one in particular, because even though Ghost combat's not perfect,
it's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's pretty darn good. And it does not have the weird floatiness and the weird tracking, and it doesn't have the weird it doesn't feel like moves take forever to come out after you press the button. Like, and Ghost of Tsushima is an open world game with swords and bow and arrows. You use a lot of bow and arrows, maybe use more swords and bow and arrow, but you definitely use your bow and arrow a lot in Ghost of Tsushima. And this game you use your bow and arrow a lot, and they tried to like really expand the melee ability, like melee part of the combat, and I appreciate that, but I'll just say this. The melee is improved from the first game, but not as much as I had hoped it was going to be.
It's still a bow and arrow game.
Still a bow and arrow game, but it's still floaty, and it's still it's got weird tracking issues, and it still's got weird wind up. And I don't think that I don't think it's enough to dissuade me from saying, "Oh, it's a bad game," or I want to play. I'm going to play it after this. After we're done recording.
Yeah, me too.
It's just one of those things where I'm like, I really love everything about this game except the core combat, and it's better than one, but it's not as improved as I had wished it was. I'm not done with the game, but I can tell you this: after I got to what I don't even know if it is, but after I assume is the halfway point, and we started getting bigger enemies roaming around randomly anywhere, I dropped the game down to easy, and I was enjoying it a lot more. Because even if you overcome all the weirdness of the combat, I don't care about dying, actually. It's the fact that it takes 10 years to kill anything. Like, it doesn't in the first half. They actually are pretty good about not throwing too many giant enemies your way. But when you get to the second half and you start getting, like, those big-ass fucking prowlers or panthers or whatever they're called, and, the big alligators and shit like that, it's like, okay, Now it's starting to take way too long to put one thing down. And to the game's credit, they have many difficulty options.
And there's usually like environmental things around
Yeah,
to try
and you can still die on it. There's story difficulty, which is brain dead. And I put it down to easy just because I'm like, I just want to kill things, after I hit them like, 4 or 5 times. I don't want to do this whole, spend 15 minutes on every enemy encounter shit. So
fair.
I'm actually much happier, and I don't have a problem saying that. I mean, if you're going to be one of the, if you're a gatekeeper elitist about difficulty, it's like, go outside and touch some grass.
Well,
like I get it. It's
Elden
realistic.
Ring comes out in a couple of days, so go play that.
Yeah, go play that. Well, I mean, I get it. Sure, it's like it's people with bows and arrows and sticks fighting giant metallic robots. It shouldn't be so easy to bring shit down. I'm like, okay, I understand the realism. I get that. That's cool. I don't care. It's a video game.
I haven't had a problem with the difficulty yet. Pretty much standard. I play everything.
Well, you told me where you were, and it was right after where you were is when I started to have. I'm like, okay, things
where
are
everything was murder. Yeah.
Right after that, right after where you are is when I started to get the feeling of it's starting to take too long. I'm dropping it.
Fair.
And I'm happier. I'm enjoying the game. If a game having multiple difficulty options and you play around with a couple and you find yourself happier on the easier difficulties, that's a positive. That is a positive in the game's favor. No game, well, not no game, but I'm like, someone else's enjoyment, being determined based on an ease of difficulty is in no way, shape, or form should have any effect on how you personally feel or whatever. Like,
I don't really have any opinion on the idea. Like, I know there's gatekeeping around games being difficult, specifically around like Soulsborne type games.
Yeah, completely stupid. And I get it if it's in an online setting.
I guess I just don't care enough to.
Yeah. Especially if it's like, okay, this is a like regarding single player content, you should never ever ever personally care about how anyone else plays a single player game differently from you. Like, yeah, there's no point. It's like cheating in general. If you go online and you're playing an online game and someone's cheating, that's fucking miserable, and fuck that person. If you're using a Game Shark for an old game on your own, who cares?
Yeah. It's like kids come over and see you have a game genie, and suddenly you're the loser of class.
Right. It's like, I had a really fun time with Time Splitters 2. I'm like, yeah, but you didn't play it right. You cheated. So fucking what?
Cheated. You know what I had? A good time.
Or I had a good time. I'm a better time now. Now you're. How are you having a bad time because of something I did on my own in a single player game?
Now, I should point out that I beat every Time Splitters on every difficulty.
I did that for Perfect Dark.
Yeah, I really just ravaged those games. So, point of pride, I played on that hardest difficulty where if you get hit once, you fucking die. And I did that
I bought
shit.
Time Splitters 2 and 3 recently for my Xbox because they were $250 a pop.
Hell yeah. The main reason I did that, though, is because I couldn't afford new games. So, you just go for it. If you, and also we're lousy for games now. Like, we have so many games coming out. Like, part of me was like, am I going to buy Elden Ring? And I don't think I am. I think I'm going to wait several months while I play everything else.
Yeah, and you got a Horizon, and there's a lot of shit in Horizon.
A lot of shit.
Just as I was starting to get a little bored of Horizon 2, I got to the coast. And I just, I just literally just sat there and was just like, I just said out loud, I just went, Jesus, titty fucking Christ. Like, I didn't even mean to. It was so, it looks so good.
Damn. All right, well, I'm looking forward to that.
I was like, wow, like, because it was, I was starting to like, all right, I'm like, I feel like I'm seeing a lot of the same environments from the first game, and I'm like, okay, it's a lot more of the same story, still interesting, but I'm like, I'm getting tired of the sort of like, back and forth of the usual. Oh my God. Look at this shit.
It's beautiful.
My dear God. It's beautiful.
For one, we're finally going to end on a high note. For once, we're ending an episode on a high note. Do you have any final high note thoughts? If you start being a downer, I'm going to cut you off.
No, I'm enjoying Horizon 2. I'm really happy. For the most part, I'm really happy with the game, and it's something that we're not going to see, on poor Nintendo hardware for. Oh, you know what else I want to say? I think the music's a good step up from Horizon 1.
It's been good. Actually, you know what Horizon, I've noticed Horizon feels like they did everything people wanted out of Breath of the Wild in terms of like music. It has the glider, you know, there's no destructibility on the weapons. You're wandering around, you're climbing shit. The climbing's better. Well, I wouldn't say it's better than Breath of the Wild. I would say that,
But it's there.
there.
There's more climbing.
Yeah. I don't know if they did that on purpose, but it definitely feels like they played Breath of the Wild and they were like, you know what this needs is better weapons and music. And then they did it. They did it.
Yeah, I think the music is a good step up from the first game. I've actually been mostly impressed, except there's like one town where like the music is a lot of just bass just pumping. It's supposed to be like, you know, drummy, you know, or war drummy. And it was just I literally was hurting my ears.
The
and it was
Tanakh.
like, yeah, I was like, I was turning down my volume and everything. I was still just like the whole music was just like boom, 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 boom. And I was like,
yeah. Well, the in Plain Song where everyone's doing the chorus and stuff, for some reason it was just like way louder than everything else.
It was. But I was like, this is really cool. I like that they're doing something with the music and stuff.
It was beautiful. It was just way louder than anything else.
It was, but I appreciated the fact that they were actually trying to emphasize music for once in you know, in a game's life, because I feel like
hell yeah.
I feel like for the most part games are still downplaying music in the games, and
I think it's making a comeback though.
I think so, probably. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think this game was a nice step up for it. It's not. Don't get me wrong; it's nowhere near Xenoblade's level of music, but like, it's good and it's a step up.
Well, it's no Metal Gear Solid, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, can you imagine? I mean, I've played Metal Gear. I think I've played Metal Gear muted, you know, just so I couldn't wake anyone up.
Yeah.
And it's fine, but man, it does lessen the experience.
The music is so good in Metal Gear. Like, you gotta have it. You just gotta have it.
Especially when you go to Rising, the best Metal Gear game.
Sure. You know what, Mark? I think due to the week on this episode, and it's all uppers, huh? This is like the cocaine of our episodes. So that's for you, bud. And our producers for this episode, for the cocaine episode, is The Arnett, Screwnami, Top 35, HyperViper89, Ziggy Z, Online Persona, and Miles XVS. Thank you, dudes, and we will catch you next time.
Later, dudes.